Welcome to the World of Horror podcast with Mom and Mac. This is the podcast where we share our love of international horror. Everyone has their fears, but we are not afraid of subtitles. Before we get into it, fair warning, these discussions will include spoilers and language which may not be suitable for all listeners. Let's move on to our first segment, Mom and Mac Chat.
Hi, Mac. Hi, Mac. How's it going?
Hi, Mom. It's going well. I just said this to you before but I am sleeping, and that's good. Sleep's good for you, and no longer feels like, oh, man, not getting sleep. It's like scary.
Oh my gosh,
it's scary how bad it is for you, and how like there was like a tipping point. Like, what day was it? Wednesday, where I was just like, I can't fucking do it anymore. Like I'm breaking down.
Yeah.
That was like, a week and a half of 5 hours max, 3 hours average a night. And I don't feel like it's ever been that bad in my life. I mean, it's never been like good, but never been that bad.
I mean, there's a reason why they do that to like prisoners and stuff,
It'd work.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just off of one night where I didn't feel like I slept at all, and I just feel crazy and like I want to cry, and like it just makes you feel so fragile.
Yeah, you are. Your brain's like, bro, help.
I know, it really worries me, like when people say they haven't gotten like very much sleep and they're like, well, I'm gonna go drive to work, and I'm like, what? Don't do that.
Yeah, I was watching Kimmy's Kitties Tuesday and Wednesday. She's such a chill, great person because she's out this whole week. And so she got like a brigade of people. She didn't ask like one person to do it. I mean, I would have done it, but I'm still glad I didn't have to. I also did it today. And I felt so honored because I got some dates mixed up. So I thought, she asked if I could also do Saturday. I was like, I can do the morning, but not the evening. But no, it turns out I can do the evening. Because she had said, oh, well, that's fine. I've got this other friend that can do it. But when I told her I could actually do the evening, she's like, can you please go? And she said that. I get the sense of I'm doing the best job. I give her like a full report every time. I play with the cat. I give them lots of lovings. I brought Alan. And so, because, you don't just want to feed and leave. You got to like tell them they're sweet boys and whatnot.
Maybe you should do that as a part-time gig.
I like doing it. It makes me feel honored when people ask me as like a friend. Like one time in college, I had this professor who I actually never had, but he was the advisor for a group I was in. And he would always host these parties at his house like twice a year. And he always kept his cats in a separate room. But he told us he kept cats in a separate room. So I was like, can I go in the room and talk to them and pet them? And he was like, sure. And I think he saw, just how much I love cats. And so he asked me to watch his cats when him and his wife went out of town. And I was so honored.
Wow.
I was like touched.
I mean, you don't want to leave your pet with just anybody.
I get it. I had a coworker do it too, but he made me put a pill in the cat's mouth. I don't want to do anything like that.
No,
that's too much.
I mean, I think like on Rover, I think that's the one that I use when I go out of town. I think the sitters can say like what they'll do and what they won't do. Yeah.
I don't feel comfortable. It was always tough because when he first showed me, I'm like, yeah, you know how to do it because that's your cat. Like, I have to manhandle your cat and put the pill. Oh, I don't know. I hated doing stuff like that for Branwyn. Another cat thing, had to take Luffy to get his rabies vaccine Thursday. And I was so also touched, brought him in, they did all their things. And he's got like some weird things, like when he sleeps, sometimes you can hear him breathe. And then one of his eyes is kind of messed up, which they had already checked both these things before a year ago. And they said it was fine. But I asked them to check it again. And the vet was like, you guys are doing a great job. He's perfect in every way, basically. Aww. And I like almost teared up. I was like, I am. Oh, it was so nice.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, your guys are good cat dads.
Aw, I try. Hoshi's kind of getting a little bit fat, so I'm feeding her a little bit less food. Like, her head's too small for her to be a fat cat. She looks kind of like, oh, it's making it a little bit too obvious that you're getting chunky because her head's so tiny.
Do you know who Vincent D'Onofrio is?
I've heard that name. Can you remind me?
Well, he plays Kingpin in
in
Spider-Man
Spider-Verse.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But he was on the show called Law and Order Criminal Intent. And the first several seasons, he's very thin. He's a really big guy. Like, he's probably 6'5". And he's got a really big head. And in the first, 3 seasons, he's like really slight. And then he just like says, fuck it. And he just like balloons. And I know it was like, I don't know, but I've heard that it was really stressful. They really worked their actors really hard and stuff. So like as the seasons go on, it gets really weird. Like, they just start bringing in like Jeff Goldblum and like Eric Bogosian.
Get this guy off the screen.
Like, they just like
my God.
Bring in this like crazy combinations and stuff. But first couple seasons I like, and I watch them over and over again.
Man, I know getting the money must be great, but being an entertainer seems hellish. There's this one K-pop group that I love. Sorry, I'm going to burp. No, I'm not. And one of the girls in this group, excuse me, sorry. One of the girls in this group, she is, when they started, she looked like every other K-pop idol, which is rail thin, kind of teetering on the edge of like, are you healthy? And then she took a hiatus because of mental health, and she had like a disc or something like that got fucked up in her back. So now she's on steroids. So now she's very clearly not even overweight, which obviously not saying being overweight would be a bad thing, but she looks like an average human, and she's still doing the dances and singing. So your cardio and fitness stuff she's definitely healthy, like a healthy person. Mm-hmm. But in comparison to the other girls there, she looks quite large just because they're all almost too thin. And it is amazing seeing what they try to do to hide it. I say amazing. It's sad because, again, she's beautiful and talented. So there's no reason for them to hide her. But they don't even know how to dress her either. They put her in stuff that's so tight. And it's like, if you could just dress her like someone with her body type should be dressed, she'll look great. But you're almost exaggerating how much bigger she is now because you're dressing her like she's a size 00, and she's not. And that's okay. It's just so weird. Like, I don't know. Like her legs are still pretty much the same size. It's more like the top half. And so they just put her in all these short things and just focus on her legs because that's the thinnest part of her. It's just bizarre.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Just so weird.
I used to want to be an actor, but even when I was a kid, I was like, I'm going to have to get plastic surgery and, I'm going to have to be super thin my whole life and all this. And then I won't have a career after I'm 40 and, and I think that's like very slowly changing. But yeah, I don't think I could do it. I think, it would just be too tough.
Everybody needs to apologize to Britney Spears because that seems to be the most normal reaction to the life that all of those people are living. Like, it's a wonder more people don't go off the deep end because holy shit. Like,
well, they might, and we just don't hear from them anymore.
That's true. Yeah. Or get addicted to something.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is getting too dark.
Do you want to talk about this lighthearted?
This fun movie.
Oh, it's so fun.
Well, one of our metal movies is Tetsuo the Iron Man. Here's a short plot summary from IMDb. A businessman accidentally kills the metal fetishist, who gets his revenge by slowly turning the man into a grotesque hybrid of flesh and rusty metal. It was directed by Shinya Tsukamoto, who also did the screenplay and edited the film. It stars Tomorowo Taguchi, Kei Fujiwara, and Shinya Tsukamoto. Cinematography by Shinya Tsukamoto and Kei Fujiwara. It was released the 1st of July, 1989, with a runtime of 67 minutes. That is a tight runtime, and even then, I feel like they could have cut a little bit out. I feel like it could have been... Yeah, there's some parts that just get a little bit repetitive to me, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I gotta say, I gotta give a shout out to this YouTube channel called Zettai Japan, because when you watch this movie, I think an average reaction is, what did I just watch? Which is very valid. I think that's what they were going for. And so, not that any movie has to mean anything, but, you know, if I'm kind of confused, I like to know or get some other analyses. The nuclear takes of this film, and I don't even mean reviews, I mean like what people think is happening in this movie on YouTube. I just kept pausing and turning to Alan and being like, I gotta tell you about how wrong this person is. And obviously something can mean whatever you want it to, who cares? But also some people are wrong. And this guy is the only one who got it right. He actually goes through the whole history of Tsukamoto and the making of this film, and it made it all make so much more sense to me. Other people were just getting the basic plot wrong. I got pissed. So shout out to Zettai Japan and the video Tsukamoto the Iron Man, creation of Tetsuo. Some of my facts are going to be from that video.
Okay, great.
So before the title card, we get some handheld action. There's a lot of handheld action in this movie. You might get a little bit icky feeling. But we're at the metal fetish's house where we see his metal collection. He's wounded himself in the thigh, like purposefully. It's pretty grotesque. And then he gets this metal rod and inserts it into his leg wound. And they didn't go over how that was done, but that looks too real. Like, it's disturbing. He wraps up his wound, and he's inside this whole like metal collection in his house. And then he looks on with shock and horror as there's maggots in his wound. So then he runs in a panic out into the street and then is hit by a car. And then we get this kind of slow 50s music that accompanies like the headlights of the car. And yeah, there's a lot of like interesting tonal shifts, though that's kind of the only music, the 50s music, that is like that. The rest of the music is so good. It was literally made for this movie. And the guy who made the music, Tsukamoto, just told him, I want you to make it only with metal. But he didn't mean that literally, but that guy took it literally. And so then he really tried to find out a way to make all the music with metal, but was like, I can't do it. And then he realized that was just like, you know, a figurative way of speaking. But anyways, the music is so good. It's like, you know, it sounds like people banging on metal, but in like a great tune, and yeah, just industrial. So we get some shots of industrial machines, and we meet the main character, who is the businessman. He's like your poster child of a salary man, like glasses and a suit. And he dances frenetically as Tetsuo goes across the screen in static letters. And so then we get the scene of the salaryman shaving, and there's some like metal, like just like a little tiny thing poking out of his cheek. But when he touches it, all this blood spurts out. It's so gross. So he just puts a bandage over it. And then he is talking to his girlfriend on the phone, and they're just going, moshi moshi, moshi moshi, moshi moshi, just like over and over again. But he kind of pauses, and she's like, moshi moshi, like. And he's like, they did the sweat really well. I don't know how they made everybody look so sweaty in this movie, but everybody's dripping with sweat. And I think this movie is really funny. Like, it's disturbing, but the humor is so offbeat that I feel like the first time you watch it again, you're just like, what am I watching?
One thing I wanted to say about that first, before the title card scene where he, puts the metal rod into his thigh. That's like, within the first minute or so of the film. So
it's like the first thing you see.
You're either in or you're out at that point. And it's pretty intense. I mean, I would say that's probably the grossest thing.
Like, yeah, they get it out of the way.
Yeah.
This next scene is pretty gross too.
There's some gross stuff in here, but
that one's the most though, like grounded gore. The rest of it's pretty like fantastical. So next he's at the subway and he's sweating a lot, and he sits on a bench next to a woman who looks down into the camera because kind of around by his feet is like where she starts looking, and she seems to see something strange in the ball of metal at her feet. And then it kind of like just really quickly gets onto her and changes her immediately. And there's a lot of stop motion, like really quick stop motion in the movie. And also he looks and she's like scratching really frantically at now this like metal that's taking over her body. And so she begins to chase the man slowly at first and then in a full-on sprint. This is one of my favorite scenes. I feel like this one is just so like, it's so scary. And you're like, what? So he locks himself into a box, but she still chases him. And she's slicing off parts of her face with her metal hand and fights him with this like she lifts him by his neck up against the wall. And also her voice is really deep. So kind of the metal fetishist is speaking through her. Because like interspersed, we have these scenes of the metal fetishist in his little metal chamber. And he's just like, like laughing and talking through her. So he ends up in this garage. And she opens up the door and advances on him, but he attacks her and he's able to subdue her. But he's infected now with this metal and he's just contorting and wailing. And he finds that he's got this giant metallic growth on his arm and ankle. And I feel like this is just kind of supposed to establish that this guy, the salaryman, is not into this at all. This terrifies him because there's a lot of different takes on what this all means, but based off of the history of Tsukamoto, who growing up, his dad was this typical salaryman. And this is so sad. Growing up, he would be drawing, like a child does. And his dad, who was never home, the times he was home, he would come and be like, that looks horrible. Like, you're bad at this. And in his anger, Shinya would rip up everything that he made and destroyed it. Like, how sad. And that kind of affected him for like the development of this movie because he was known to be extremely hard to work with and a perfectionist. And actually, he cut so much of the movie down already because anything that wasn't up to snuff, destroyed, which is so like, is scary the effect that kind of stuff can have on you as a kid. And he did live the salaryman life himself, but hated it. And so quit his job, which made his parents very upset and he was kicked out. But it's not like he was a deadbeat, he got ingratiated with the theater community and made all these connections to make this movie. Like this movie could not have been made by one man. Like it was a labor of love. And anyways, I see the salaryman as being the ideal of what he's supposed to be.
Do you know how old Shinya was when he made this movie?
Let's see. I believe he was born in this. He grew up in the 60s. It says how old is he? He was born 1960, so okay, he would have been 29.
29. Okay.
Yeah. Wow. So and yeah, he at this point had also already made some early films. And anyways, I feel bad for the guy, but clearly he put all that anger into something really cool. So that's nice. So then I love these scenes. There's some like fast, it's like stop motion, but it's with the camera and just kind of the placement of the actors. Like we have, the salaryman going home, but it's really fast motion. I feel like this is how I feel, or this used to be how I felt coming home from work. Just like, Fuck it. And interspersed, there's a woman with like a metal appendage. This is Kei Fujiwara, who this was filmed in her house. And she's dancing and extending this appendage toward him. It's literally like, imagine a tube with a bit at the end attached to her groin. And she's got this cool makeup. Her hair is all like frizzy and big, and she's very sweaty too. She's just putting everything into this performance. Now he's on all fours and she fucks him with the metal pipe. And it steams as he rides around. I love this scene too. Any scene with her is great. But that all seems to be a dream. When he kind of is back to himself and sees his face in the mirror, the original wound on his cheek is raw and it's spread. So his wife asks him, "What's the matter? Doshita no?" And so then he gets all heated up and he fucks her from behind and bites her shoulder. And then this is another one of my favorite scenes. It seems so hot in this house.
Yes.
He's making her dinner. It's just like, a cast iron skillet with like vegetables or something, and just slams it down on the table. And she's into all of this. She's like, "Oh, okay, hey, what's going on?" And he starts feeding it to her with a fork. And when she bites on the fork, there's all these like screeching metal sounds. And he's like, "Oh," like he like grunts. And it's like she's doing it to him, with like, yeah, there's like a gunshot, all this like screeching, and she's really like sexily trying to eat the stuff on this fork. And then she's like licking this sausage really seductively that he's feeding her. And there's a bunch of metal sounds again. And so then they start making love again. And he says, "Don't ever leave me, okay?" Obviously, he's feeling pretty anxious. But, I got to say, he really shouldn't be worried because he's somehow found the one. Like, this lady, against all odds, is into it. So
Okay. I have to say, I was very confused because
fair.
it seems like what's happening to him is he's transforming into something very scary. But she is really okay with it, like more than okay. She's like turned on by it.
Yeah.
But I guess, like you were saying before, I guess he's so disgusted with himself that he can't like accept her love for him.
Yeah. And I think that's so, I don't know. I feel like, again, this movie can be whatever you want it to be, but I feel like that message is extremely relatable. Like, if what we're thinking is right, we've got this guy who maybe up to this point has just been boring, living life by the book, doing what he thinks he's supposed to do. And now the metal growing onto him is kind of symbolizing like, okay, you're moving away from society standards, and maybe you're a more passionate person because you're doing that. And thus your girlfriend or your wife is like, "Who's this new guy? He's awesome. This is great." And like you said, though, it's not like he wanted this to happen. This is happening against his will. So he's just freaked out. But I don't know. I think apparently some people really don't like this scene, but I feel like this is one of the highlights of the whole movie. It's so good. So he's in a blanket and she's hugging him. And, excuse me. Sorry. Back up. Cut that. So then his dick becomes a drill and it penetrates the table. It's literally a drill, sawdust going everywhere. He's screaming. The like shot of he's kind of like looking down, just screaming like and like it's just like going up through the table, and she's watching amazed. He's terrified and runs away and locks the door, and she tries to open it, but he doesn't want her to. And she's like, "Don't worry, like I can take it. It's okay." So he punches his hand through the door to see if that will scare her off, but she still wants to see him. She's so supportive. I just like, in the context though of the movie, it really is like amazing. Like, she's just witnessed his penis become a drill and she's like, "Baby, it's okay. Like, yeah. I love you for you." It's really kind of beautiful. So he's in a blanket and she hugs him and begs him not to leave her alone. And she says, "And baby, nothing shocks me." But then he reveals his face and she sees that he is largely made out of metal now. And then he just says, "Fuck it," and fucks her with his drill penis. So, also perhaps he was afraid because he was like, "I'm not even showing you my real self right now." And then the fear is when he does, she'll be freaked out. And she is. So she puts the frying pan on his face and attacks him with a knife as he continues to transform and he becomes more monstrous. And then asks her if she wants a taste of his sewage pipe. And so then she stabs him in the neck. I mean, okay, there's like a line. Like, you can be passionate, but don't be aggressive, you know. Don't offer the sewage pipe. So then she gets him in the fleshy part, and then his drill penis slows down, like wears down. And then she kisses his face as she keeps the knife inserted. I mean, this woman is a freak too. So then she's on top of him and proceeds to fuck herself to death with his drill penis as the metal fetishist laughs. Like, the shot is kind of her just kind of looking up, and then we just see the blood splatter on the back wall and her just kind of like getting jostled as he looks in horror. So I guess his worst fears have come true. So the salaryman gets into a bath and starts to peel the parts of the metal off of himself. And we see some scenes of a scrapyard and the metal fetish's apartment. There's this whole network of wires and metal and smoke. And this also includes I think it's the grill of the salaryman's car. So then, kind of like a surreal thing, we get like a TV comes on and there's a recording of a man who's saying, "I can't believe you're alive," speaking about the metal fetishist and saying, "You've got a piece of metal stuck in your brain and you'll die if it's removed." And in the original cut of the film, the metal fetishist then kills the doctor, but that was cut out. Also, the woman from the subway, one scene that was cut was she was supposed to have this whole tap dancing scene in that garage. And apparently the actress worked so hard to learn all the choreography. But at this point, when Tsukamoto was editing the film, every single person had left. They had had enough of him. And so I guess there was nobody there to tell him to keep it in, but I would have loved to see that. And I think I think this was so funny. The guy who played the salaryman, he was the only one to not, because everybody lived in that apartment that all these scenes are taking place in while they were filming. But the guy playing the salaryman was like, "I'm not living there, because if I do, I'm going to leave." And he's like, "I can't take that much like contact with Tsukamoto." And he was right, because everybody started leaving. And so then it really turned into like the actors having to do their own lighting and whatnot. And sadly, Kei Fujiwara also parted, but she said it was because she's a really strong personality too. And she's like, we just couldn't work together. But I think it's great that he still credited everybody, because apparently she was a fundamental part of the film being made. So the salaryman is now heavily transformed. His wife is in the bathtub, dead. She's kind of like surrounded by petals. It's really kind of beautiful. And he kind of like, gently looking at her. I think he touches her. So then there's a telephone call, and it's like a memory. And we see like a VCR tape rewinding, and it's the hit and run, which plays over and over. So this is like the memory of the metal fetishist looking up after he's been hit by this car. And the person who hit him is the salaryman and his wife. And so they look at the man in horror, and then it kind of cuts, and instead of helping him, they're just kicking him down the hill in the forest. And then they fuck in a tree and just look at him. And the wife even says like, "Look, honey, he's watching us."
I know.
I feel like what this is supposed to be is like, this is just my take, is though the salaryman, is the like the blueprint of what a human, I guess, is supposed to be. I guess he's saying like, you guys are weird too, though. Like, it's not like you're not weird. And you're not perfect, I guess. But you're hiding it. Whereas the metal fetishist is just like, I'm weird, baby. Yeah.
That's a good take.
Yeah, because I think, anytime the one time I worked in an office, literally I thought all of those people were deranged. I was like, how are you guys like the model citizens? Because the way some of my coworkers were talking, I was just like, you're fucked in the head. The people that I worked with at a restaurant were so much better people than these people. Obviously there's bad people everywhere, but you know what I'm saying. So the salaryman then sticks his hand into a socket like you do, and he transforms even more. And then we see the metal fetishist is putting on makeup, and he's holding out this like bouquet of flowers and speeding through town, I think trying to find the salaryman.
Mhm.
And he does. He finds him, and oh yeah, because they did have a cat. It causes the man, his wife, and cat to become encased in metal. And all of the metal like growing on things, that was the most like icky part to me, but in a good way. Because they would just, the stop motion of it just suddenly growing and just like cover. It's like if you've ever seen a time lapse of, which I can't explain why I've looked at stuff like this, but sometimes there's like a YouTube channel where this guy just films food or something like rotting, I guess, in his garage. And it's so interesting to see all the different life forms that come and decompose something. And this guy must have watched stuff like that, because that's exactly the way it reads to me. So the wife is revived with the knife attached to her, and she attacks the salaryman, and then a ton of metal sprouts out of her body and ends up revealing the metal fetishist underneath. So the metal fetishist says that the salaryman's brain will turn to metal, and he wants to show him a new world. And we kind of see this like new world is written in the headlights of the car. So then we see like a vision of the vision. It's like kind of like, you can tell it's was made like small scale of like all these little, I don't even know how to explain, but Duda heads. And it's supposed to be his vision of like a metal world. Like this is what the world is going to look like when the metal infects and takes everybody over. So then they both go outside, and I like in here, Mom has written in the summary, MF and SM. I'll say that since it's shorter syllables. MF then pulls SM to him like a magnet, and he's got pipes on his feet, which make him go fast. And so then they're just zooming through the streets. And okay, this next part really doesn't have an explanation, because there's this homeless man who's beating the metal man with a pipe. And while he's doing it, MF feels it, and he keeps saying like, stop. This guy playing the homeless man, in order to make the film feel more like a feature film, they wanted to hire a known actor. So Tsukamoto sent this guy fan mail and asked if he would be in his movie, and he accepted. And so that's his role. So I don't really think it's supposed to mean anything. But it was a way for them to be like, no, look, we're a real film. We have this actor in it.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Like, that's why knowing how this movie is made, it made me like it so much more, because you could just feel, it definitely has an art film vibe. And I think knowing the process of that and of the artist makes it so much better. So they repel that attack, and they both end up, or SM ends up in a warehouse. MF ends up outside looking in at him, and uses his powers to send all this metal machinery at SM. This is the part that I just think goes on a little bit too long. It's just kind of a lot of the same thing. And yeah, I just don't think it was all necessary. So now SM can barely move. MF turns his arm into a gun and then blasts fire into the sky, and then they have a big fight. So then, of course, you gotta bring the drill penis back in. We made it, might as well use it. So SM rushes out of the mass that was holding him back. But then the two become connected, and we kind of see like this womb kind of thing. Like they're both looking at each other. They're both naked, though you just see them from the chest up and kind of moving their hands, and their hands move at the same time. And there's like a metal line, like a umbilical cord that's between them. One of the nuclear takes I saw was that this movie was about the AIDS virus and like anxiety about that, which again, if that's your reading, that's fine. But I don't see these two as lovers. I see them as one and the same. Like this is saying that they're brothers. They're in the womb together. And now the salaryman has become a part of this metal fetishist. Like they are one and the same, which is, I think, supposed to represent like, this is who I am. This is me, Tsukamoto. So then the 50s music that was playing in the beginning plays again. And so then there's a huge explosion at the factory, and we hear metal scraping along the pavement. And now they are fused together, like they're this giant thing. The fetishist at the top, I believe, and the salaryman, just kind of like his face. It kind of looks like it is coming out of a vagina a little bit. And he kind of looks like his face is frozen in a scream. And it looks like he does have like some fake teeth in his mouth. But the fetishist is like, we're going to mutate the world and turn it into metal. And our love will destroy the whole world. And then the salaryman just goes like, awesome. Can't wait. And so then they move through the streets. And then that is the end of the film. And yeah, I love it. Again, I do feel like if that part was cut out, I would love it even more. But it does kind of, you run out. It's so much has been thrown at you throughout the movie that you do get a little bit tired of it, even though it's not that long of a movie. It's just so like, the whole time. It is sensory overload. So here's some trivia. This film was based on a play that Shinya Tsukamoto had written, directed, and performed in college. And he actually also did a really short film that was basically this movie, but it was kind of like a dry run of all the techniques he was going for. Portions of the film are used as a music video for Machine Gun by Portishead. And the film is included among the 1001 movies you must see before you die, edited by Steven Schneider. And yeah, I think this movie was clearly a labor of love, and I feel like people always say it was very influential. Like, I don't really watch a lot of cyberpunk things, but and it obviously, I guess it definitely does fall within cyberpunk, but the message to me just seems so clearly, I feel like similar to Titane almost, of just, the metal being a representation of just something that's wrong, like feeling like you're wrong and not a part of society. Like, obviously industrial stuff has an influence, but I feel like it's more about the body horror of feeling like you are wrong in some way, even though you're not.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because one of the Letterboxd reviews mentions Titane.
Oh, well, let's see what Letterboxd has to say about it. Squizzy gave it a 0.5 star. An absolutely incomprehensible and incredibly grating experience. Didn't make a lick of sense. And honestly, I think that's kind of valid.
I mean, the music, you mentioned the music, but I mean, it's nonstop. And
yeah.
So it's like banging metal throughout the whole thing. So I could see how you might be like, oh my God, that was really unpleasant. I've seen this probably 4 times now, and I really like it. But I mean, the first time I was just completely like, I don't know what this is.
Yeah. And that's what they were going for, was just like shock and awe.
Yeah.
Business Person gave it a 0.5 star. You fuckers on the Letterboxd top 250 horror movie list really convinced me to watch a feature-length film of a man with an electric drill for a penis.
Yeah, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah, where else are you going to see that? I've never seen that before. Not scary or entertaining, just incoherent and weird.
Whatever.
Whatever. I bet that was the salaryman who wrote that. Puddle Duckling gave it a 0.5 star. Well, I just did not like that. Oh.
I mean, fair.
Allison I gave it 5 stars. Tetsuo ran so Titane could walk. The greatest love story ever told. Even though they're similar, they're also like not on the same, one was made with like the budget of like, an allowance, and like the other one is this is a feature length film, but also kind of not really. How many 67-minute movies everything's 90 minutes now. If you don't got 67 minutes, you don't got time for anything.
I don't know what the limit is, like how long it has to be. to be
Yeah.
considered a feature-length film, but I feel like it's more than 67 minutes.
Right? I guess a lot of children's movies are really short. Like apparently The Land
That's
Before
true.
Time was like an hour, but Land Before Time. I've just been thinking about that movie a lot. Stickoff gave it 5 stars. Basically perfect in everything it's attempting to do. It's difficult to go through because it's so aggressive, but it's also so fascinating that you can't take your eyes off the thing. It looks perfect, the cinematography is on point, the editing is pure mayhem, and it's quite funny sometimes. I would agree with all
Yeah,
that.
I agree.
Taxidermist gave it 5 stars. Extremely disorienting, raw, unfiltered, and relentless. One of the grimiest things I've ever laid eyes on. Shinya Tsukamoto has really outdone himself when creating this absolute hellscape of flesh and metal. The animated bits gave me some Takashi Ito vibes, but I think this one was providing the inspiration, not taking it. At over just an hour long, this thing is the definition of all killer, no filler. I love how this first sentence could be somebody's half-star review.
Yeah, I agree. I know. So like, where are we going, taxidermist?
I think you're so right that for the first little bit, I think you know if you can
you're
be on this
either
ride
in or you're out.
Yeah. Let's rate it in drill penises.
Okay.
I would give it 4 and a fork.
4 and a fork?
Yeah, I think I do wish it was even a little bit shorter. But other than that, I like it a lot.
I think I'm going to go 4.5.
4 and a fork.
Oh, is that? See, because the fork is so much smaller than a drill penis. So I was thinking you were saying 4.25.
Ah, 4 and 2 forks.
Saying 4. Okay, so we're both on the same page. Yeah. 4.5. Yeah.
What have we learned? Don't resist the metal. Become metal.
I think I'm learning that, like, I need to feed my cat tuna before I record because she seems to think it's perfectly fine to chime in.
I watched it too.
When she hasn't. She hasn't watched it.
No. It made me think of tuna.
Yeah. She slept through the whole thing and she's just a big liar. That's what I'm learning.
Okay. Lesson. Rosie's a liar. Would we watch it again? Yes.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite scene?
I like the love/death scene that you mentioned before.
Same.
With what's her name? Kei
Fujiwara.
Kei Fujiwara, yeah.
Who wins the You Fool Award? I'm gonna say the fetishist.
Oh, really?
Well, for putting that rod in his leg.
Oh, that's so nasty.
Like, what do you think was gonna happen?
Wow. Well, that's
we did
TETSUO, the Iron Man. All right, now I can jigsaw this together.
Nice.
And put it with TITANE. Hi, Mac. How's it going?
Hi, Mom. How are you?
I'm good. It's going to storm here in a second, and I love it when it storms.
You do? I don't like it when it thunders.
I do.
You do?
Yeah.
Good for you. I wish I did.
I don't like it when the lightning is like super, super close, but yeah, sure. I like storms.
I like rain. I don't like mosquitoes. I got so freaked out the other day, hence why I need to be on medication. I just got so worried that like the windows were gonna explode in our bedroom. So I sat next to the bed like this until the thunder went away. And Alan was like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "No."
Oh my goodness.
I know. That's how bad the anxiety was. So that's why I'll take sleeplessness and whatever else to not feel that way.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm proud of myself. Now, I am a hypochondriac. I did promise Alan I would stop Googling things, but I've had insomnia. What else are you supposed to do, but Google things? And so, okay, I'm on this cocktail of medicine right now, a lot. And so I was just Googling drug interactions. Even my psychiatrist obviously knows everything I'm taking, so She's a doctor. She's got it. But the pharmacist freaked me out. This idiot was like, oh, hey, this new medicine you're taking, are you also taking bupropion with it? I was like, yeah. He was like, well, maybe you shouldn't because that will be so much serotonin that you're going to get a headache. I start freaking out because I'm not on the new med yet. So my anxiety is still out of control and I'm freaking out. And then I looked it up. Bupropion doesn't even do anything with serotonin. It's dopamine. So he just must have been confused. But I was like, why would you say something like that? Like, you see all the meds I'm taking. Clearly, I'm crazy. Like, so you can't just say shit like that to me. Like, all night I was scared. Anyways, but in contrast, last night I was like, let me just, for fun, look up drug interactions. Come to find out, you know, if any one person has ever had a case of anything, they got to write it down. It was like, hey, all the drugs you're taking, don't take them together. Not good. You'll get serotonin syndrome. I'm like, what is that? I Google it. Well, you know, like 5 people get it. Like, I mean, there's more than that, but it's really rare and you know it if you have it. But amazingly, I read all these accounts of it and I just went, well, I don't feel like that. And that was it.
Good for you.
Thank you. I was pretty proud of myself.
When you have insomnia, one of the things you can do is really boring things like fold laundry and
that's a good idea.
Do quiet things. Obviously, you don't want to wake up your boyfriend, but
because on the phone, that's not good. Like even if you are tired, you'll stay up.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, totes, my goats.
I need to find a book.
Ooh, books are good.
Yeah, because
books.
This is so silly of me, but like, okay, y'all know I love One Piece. Alan and I love One Piece, and like we trade off getting the next box set of manga. We have like 85 of them right now, and I'm all caught up on the anime. But I just like didn't read any of them. Isn't that stupid? I just like bought all these things and didn't read them. I was going to, but I was like, I don't know. I think my attention span has been so fucked because of my phone that I could not fathom sitting down and reading. But Alan's been reading at least a chapter a day. So he's almost at the end of the ones we have so far. So I finally picked them up and started reading them. And I was like, wow, I love reading manga. Like what, like, why did I ever stop doing this?
It's like a whole new world that you have now. So that's great. Perfect timing.
Right? Yeah. I'll turn on a little light.
Yep. Yeah, I got a book the other day from Amazon.com and I don't really read books. So I'm just like, what am I even doing?
What am I doing? I know I've done that too. Like I listen to audiobooks because again, I don't have the attention span. And I genuinely do think not manga, because manga, like I'm paying attention to the art. So, you know, but like I do not ingest books well if I read them. Like I feel like that's always been the case. Cause I remember, you know, as a kid, I did read Harry Potter, you know, you and I read it together. And then when the movies came out, I know they have to like change some things, but I remember looking at them, I was like, I don't remember any of the shit happening. And I read this book. So that just goes to show it doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
But I love this one series called Murderbot. And I had listened to the audiobook and I was like, there's not an audiobook for this one yet. I'll get the book. The receipt's still in the book. I haven't read it. Like, why did I get it?
I hardly ever read. There's like a detective series. One of my ESL students got for me. It's, I don't remember the name of it, but apparently it's like, I'm thinking it's like YA fiction. But it's like it's a German mystery book, but it's kind of like comedic. Like the detective is kind of, you know, a dummy and stuff like that. So I'm reading cute. That one. Yeah, I read that one when I can't sleep. I mean, I have daily readers I read because I am, you know, ancient. That sentence indicates, I mean, if there was ever any question, that I am a very old lady.
Okay. don't think so. I think you're wise.
Nah, I'm seasoned.
I feel like you're not crotchety.
Oh, well, that's true. I hope not.
Yeah, no,
Although
no crotchetiness.
I was in a meeting last night, and it was a business meeting, and yeah, I lost my temperature. I lost my temper a little bit.
What'd you do?
I just spoke really emphatically at
Well,
somebody.
That is your right.
I guess.
More women need to speak emphatically.
Yeah, that's true. It was to another woman, though.
Oh, hate crime.
She is old, like
ageist,
like she's in her 70s.
Misogynistic. Oh my god, can't believe you've gotten us canceled already.
Oh, that reminds me, I'm putting together a unit on cancel culture. I'm so excited.
Ooh, that is really exciting because
Yeah.
it's such a hot button topic, and it's amazing how somehow men can be canceled and get Netflix specials at the same time. It's crazy how that works.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're canceled, why am I still hearing your voice? Like, can we cancel you better then?
No one really gets canceled. Well, I mean, people really do get canceled.
You know who got canceled? Kathy Griffith.
Kathy Griffin. That was the one I was thinking of.
Yeah, she did get canceled.
She did.
And woman, it was against Trump. Like, hello. Not Joe Rogan, not Dave Chappelle. They are very much not canceled. There's so many people now who are like so down to just shit on like minorities that like openly. I know there have always been these people, yes, but they are very loud now, and you can get a fan base. It's like, forget trying to appease the people who want you to, better yourself as a person. You'll find people who are like, oh, you're an asshole, I love you more now. And not an asshole in a cool way. Like, oh, you're cruel and mean. Like, okay, yeah. I'm backing you. So like, no, if you say something transphobic, like, you'll probably gain fans.
Oh, yeah, depending. Now, I won't even tell you some of this. Okay, I'll tell you this one thing, because it's... Okay. Let me see how I can say this. I wanted the language in the script to be more inclusive. And my first suggestion was, instead of he or she, to change it to he, she, or they. That did not go over great. With some people, they were totally fine, but there was a vocal minority. And so our new proposal was to change it to that individual or that person.
Okay. How is that better than they? Like, that's clunkier, right? Like, for the people who are like, no, you can't say they. It's like that's preferable. They don't even like including they, a part of he and she.
Somebody said that was a political issue, and
oh my god,
it's an outside issue. But I was, my blood was like low key boiling, and I was like, it's science. It's not even like debate, and then there was somebody who's an editor, and she jumped in and she's like, I have a suggestion, she's like, we can write around this issue.
Yeah.
And so that's what we decided to do.
People are, man, I would be right there with you. Refer to my shirt, trans rights are human rights. It's like, oh, does this involve humans? Then like, yeah, it's not like existences. Like, you can't claim that they're political. Like, whenever some people are like, trans people don't exist, it's like, what?
I had a student who really wanted to debate me on that, and I'm like, I'm not going to debate you.
Yeah. I'm also not the one.
Yeah, I'm also not the one. You picked the wrong professor on the wrong day, which is every day.
Yeah. I got into and I don't know, the other day I woke up wired, day after taking new meds, and I've been trying to think, like, maybe I should talk to myself more, because I talk to myself in my head, but I feel like it's better to say it out loud, because your head can get weird. And if you think something's really out there, but you say it out loud, it'll seem out there because now it's actually out there and not in your head. So anyways, I just got into a fight with somebody I made up in my head, and I was like looking at myself in the mirror, and I was just like, it really ties in so well with this movie actually, because I've just been thinking a lot about, well, being trans, and trans men aren't really actually talked about by, the people who hate trans people. It's like we don't exist. It's, hating on trans women, unfortunately. But we still catch some strays here or there. And like, despite not identifying as a woman, it's like I did grow, like, I was a young girl, at it, like, the world viewed me as such, and I internalized things as such. So I still hold a deep connection to like the well-being of women everywhere, like more than an empathetic way. It's like a personal thing, because it's like, oh, I've been there. And so I don't know, I just got mad because talking to myself in the mirror, and because I know he's not as big of a thing now, but I was just thinking about like Andrew Tate and stuff. I had seen this interview on a college campus where this guy was interviewing girls and boys and saying, "What do you think about Andrew Tate?" All the girls said, "Hate him. Hate anybody. If anybody says they listen to him, I don't value their opinion. He doesn't know what's good for women." And then all the guys he interviewed were like, "We love him. Yeah, super great." And I'm just like, I know you're already stupid, but like, if this guy was really like the ladies' man of all time, like, wouldn't women be like, please, please listen to him? That would be so good for us. Like, why would he need to traffic women if like they would just be throwing themselves at him, So like, it's just like, it makes no sense. And I just got incensed.
Yeah. I mean, the misogyny in this world is really intense. And now that it looks like Harris is going to be the person running in the presidential election, not to get political.
Hey, keep that outside, okay?
But the first thought I had was, oh no.
Yeah, same.
Because people hate women. Women hate women.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like, and not to say all men hate women. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying we live in such a misogynistic culture.
Not all men.
Like, no, that's what I mean.
No, I know. I was joking.
No, yeah. I have to edit that podcast. I'm going to cut this. I got to edit that podcast, and it's coming out a week from today. I'm not doing anything today, but I will probably spend Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday editing that fucker.
Oh, man.
But, I mean, actually, it's mostly, I mean, I don't think I have to cut that much that John and Georgia said.
Yeah.
Just got to cut out the cat parts.
But luckily, I feel like it'll probably be obvious what it looks like.
Yeah.
Rose?
I'm glad I know how to do that. I mean, when we first started this podcast, I had no idea how to do anything like that. And that, I mean, some of those early podcasts they're so charming.
Hey, it's a testament to how much you have learned,
I guess. And shout out to the people who are downloading. It's so funny because people will like download, like they'll go back like 5 or 10.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes they'll jump all the way to the beginning. And I'm like, ooh, okay. But nobody's first podcasts are perfect.
Like I, listening to, like a few years ago, I started Mabim Bam over, and those first ones are like, they sound like dog shit. Like they sound horrible.
Sometimes they still sound like dog shit.
Yeah, a lot of people, I'm surprised at how bad they sound. Are you thinking about, oh yeah, dude?
Yeah.
Sometimes, like, that's why I'm always like, Mom, you do not gotta worry, because they're doing this Seth is for his livelihood, and that stuff does not sound good sometimes.
No, it doesn't. But
that's the thing about women, you got to do everything
twice as
Yeah,
Well,
to get half the recognition. Yeah.
That's yeah. So speaking of women,
Kinda.
kind of.
I was not expecting to love this movie so much.
I was so curious how you would feel about it. I mean, I gotta say, I really loved it. I really loved the beginning of it the first time I saw it. I was like, I am into this. And then there became a point where I was like, oh, I'm out. I'm all the way out. And then I watched it today and like part of it made me cry. I'm like, what's going on with this thing?
I was shocked that surprisingly, like the last bit was kind of my favorite. I feel like
Mhm.
this movie deconstructed gender way better than, like, say, men. Like, you could do a direct comparison. I mean, I know that bar is very low, but no offense to the men lovers. But I I love when you watch a movie and it's so clear that the director was a woman. Like, because
Yeah.
sometimes you watch a movie where a lot of characters are female, or even just one, and you're like, oh, a man directed this, a man wrote this. Yeah. Because you're just like, well, this is a fantasy. But I'm watching this, I'm like, she gets it. Like, this this movie spoke to me more than any other movie about gender. Um, and maybe other people would disagree, and I would say that they're valid. But to me, as I said, I've been thinking a lot about being trans and whatnot because I've been gendered as male now, like pretty much all the time, except when I order through the drive-through. They're still like, "Oh, thank you, miss," and then I get up there, I'm like, "Hey," because I still order like, "Hi, can I please get?" But I'm now just really experiencing the differences in how I'm treated. And I just feel like this movie captured so many things that I've felt in such a great way. And like this is what I love about symbolism is that you don't have to show exactly the thing. You could show this crazy shit and but it like speaks to my soul. And I'm like, wow, like I feel seen
Yeah.
right now. And but if I was to describe this to somebody out of context, they'd be like, what?
So, not like next week or anything, but I think it might be kind of fun, like in a year, to revisit Men and Titan.
Yeah. The little uh contrast.
Yeah, I think that would be kind
I'm
of
down.
fun. All right, Titan. Following a series of unexplained crimes, a father is reunited with the son who has been missing for 10 years.
That's a you
That's one
told
way to put it.
somebody that synopsis and then just sat them in front of the movie.
Yeah.
Technically true.
Yeah, it's part of it. Agatha Roussel plays Alexia / Adrienne. Oh, sorry, Francophones. I'm going to butcher all the French.
Same.
Apologies. Vincent Linden as Vincent. Garance Marillier as Justine. Lais Salame as Ryan. Miriam Akhedu as Adrian's mother. Bertrand Bonello as Alexia's father. All right, and I took the summary from Wikipedia and I sort of wrote around it. So some of this is from the fine folks over at Wikipedia, and some of this is me. And it'll be a fun game to see
Who's
if you
who?
can tell the difference. A little girl named Alexia annoys her father during a drive. As she removes her seatbelt, her father turns around to scold her, causing a car crash.
One time, uh here starts my interjections. This just reminded me that I learned the hard way that seatbelts are important because I remember being like, I don't need to do this. And I think I unbuckled while you weren't looking. And then maybe there was like a sharp stop and I just went whoomp, like towards the seat and like the top of my head bled. And I always wore my seatbelt after that.
Oh, good.
And luckily that didn't happen.
Yeah. Oh, God. Alexia suffers a skull injury and has a titanium plate fitted into her head. When she gets out of the hospital, wearing a unicorn t-shirt reminiscent of the sisters in Raw, she shuns her parents and embraces her car passionately.
I feel like it's significant that she has a shaved head here too.
Oh, yes.
She just like glares at them. But we don't really see much of their beginning life, but it seems like she was always like this.
Always like what?
Like antagonistic, not warm.
Not warm. No.
Cold.
We'll go back to that. Cold, even, some might say. Years later, Alexia, now an adult with a large scar on the side of her head, works as a showgirl at a motor show. How about this show?
I was like, is this a thing? Is this a thing? Like at one point, there's this woman with like, it's like tits on a stick kind of boobs, just like pressing them. And they got the camera view from inside the car of her boobs on the car. And oh my God, Alexia is by far like the most into it. Like she is just going for it. She looks like amazing. I mean, everybody's looking amazing, but I was like, dang, she is just. And I think she's so beautiful here. Like she's like still quite feminine, but in a very masculine way.
Well, yes. I mean, I think the casting is really interesting. She's very tall. At least she seems very tall. And she's got small breasts and a really long torso.
Mm-hmm.
So, and not very wide hips. So, yeah, interesting casting, I think.
Strong jaw.
Strong jaw. I mean, I think it's heightened. I don't think this really exists, but I mean, definitely girls at showgirls at car shows. Yeah.
I was like, I've been to car shows now for my job. It's just amazing how not like this it was. But
right. And then I wrote, did you recognize Justine? But yes. I mean, she shows up, she's in it for a little bit. One night, after a show, a male fan follows Alexia in the showroom's parking lot, and there's a beautiful shot of their shadows as he's pursuing her. He declares his love to her and forcibly kisses her. She then brutally kills him using her large metal hair stick.
What is this like? Why does white foam come out of your mouth if you get a hair stick in your ear? Because that's consistent.
Oh, really? Has that happened in other films?
No, in this film.
Oh, in this film.
It's like something they do frequently. And I was like, is this what happens? I mean, I guess you don't know, but
yeah.
Why would that happen?
I, of course, was not expecting this at all the first time that I watched it. And I was just like, that's when I told you don't eat while you're watching this film. I thought this was really disgusting.
Yeah. I kind of knew as soon as she starts getting into the kissing him back, I'm like, oh, she's about to murk this guy. Now I just thought about it. The needle, it is very like, it's not phallic in that it's very skinny, but it is still like long thing going into ear hole,
Yeah.
Ugh.
As she returns to the showroom to shower, Alexia finds that the car she modeled with earlier has turned on by itself, a la Christine. She enters it naked, and there's almost this religious music, which we'll hear at the end also. But she has sex with the car and climaxes.
This scene, I mean, she's like, I don't know, holding onto the seat belts, and you don't see her vagina, but like her legs are spread, and it's just like, this actress was just putting everything into this performance. Like, it was amazing.
Next morning, Alexia discovers bruises on the insides of her thighs. On the news is the story of a boy who disappeared years ago and whose case has been closed.
I understood later why this was so significant, but at first I thought that like this movie was going to go the route of like she killed him as a kid.
Oh, God.
Because she just kept looking at it. I was like, oh, does she recognize her previous crime?
Alexia still lives with her parents, with whom she has a distant relationship.
Yeah, that's she like they're making food and it's just like roommates.
Yeah.
I was amazed
And
she still lived there.
well, I didn't know exactly how old she was supposed to be. I thought she was in her 20s, but Adrian is, I guess, 17.
I think she's supposed to be like 30, isn't she?
Oh, okay.
I don't know where maybe the actress is 32 and that's where I just had the number 32 in my head.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, but I really like how efficient all of this is. And in the beginning, we saw the daughter with the dad, and he wasn't speaking to her at all. It was all just like daggers, like at each other. And then here again, there's just like no dialogue. They're just like avoiding each other. The mom kisses her on the top of the head, but other than that, there's like no affection in this family, seemingly.
And I just remembered, it's like she says that her stomach hurts. And then
Mm-hmm.
I guess the dad's a physician. So the mom's like, oh, dad can check you out. But that scene is so awkward. Like
Yeah.
he's touching her stomach, like gives it like 2 presses. He's like, oh, you're fine. Like wants nothing to do with her, which I mean, I know like, I don't know if that would be weird. Like if your dad's a physician, it's not like you're naked. Like I don't feel like it should be weird, but they clearly don't hug or touch or anything. So
Yeah. I thought it was weird. I thought he kind of touched her a little lower than I would like someone to touch me if they were doing a tummy exam.
yeah, but she kind of like grabs his arm, doesn't she? Kind of like, you're not
Yeah,
done yet,
I know. So what was that all about?
I think she was just saying like, I'm in pain and you're just dismissing it. That's what I took it as.
Okay. I hope you're right. Alexia makes out with Justine from work, but when Alexia gets too rough, Justine backs off.
You want to know what too rough means? Because she's got like her nipples are pierced with metal, and Alexia loves her some metal clearly and is just fixated on it. And it's kind of funny at first, though I knew exactly where this was going. And Justine's like, oh, never been with a girl, have you? Well, you can go lower, And she just keeps just like slobbering all over that. And then she keeps biting it. And Justine, I'm like, girl, like if it hurts, say something and tell her to quit it. But she just sits there and takes it, which now the more I'm thinking about this movie, the more I'm like, there is so much in here that I feel like is all intentional.
Yeah.
And yeah, Alexi's being so aggressive. And then finally she like pulls on it so hard. It looks so disgusting. And then Justine's like, hey, like, dude. But even then, she doesn't tell her to fuck off. She's like, all right, well, come on. Like, what?
Yeah, I thought that was pretty weird. Alexia runs off and vomits and then discovers she has developed a belly. And now she bleeds oil. Alexia finds she is pregnant when she's wearing Justine's tank, which reads, never give up. So, I don't know, something we've learned from Raw and from TITANE is people are very free with their clothing in these films.
Or lack thereof.
Yeah. Lexi attempts to give herself an abortion with her hair stick, but Justine interrupts her.
She gets pretty far with it.
Yeah, it's pretty disturbing.
Yeah.
She and Justine make out on the couch, but Alexia suddenly stabs Justine with her hair stick. I had to rewind this. I'm like, did she touch her belly or no? She just like...
Just did it.
A switch is flipped and she just like stabs her.
And there's like, it's like sticking out of her cheek.
I know. Okay. So somebody said, or maybe it was in the Letterboxd reviews, that this is a very funny movie. And I think in a certain frame, you could find even this really funny.
This scene is the funniest scene in the movie.
Yeah. Oh,
I don't feel like it's funny after this. Like, it's like, sometimes certainly it's a little bit, but I'm mostly you're just like, Like, I don't know. You feel like you're Clockwork Oranging it. Like, oh God, I had to take so many breaks from this movie.
I know you did.
And I liked it. Like, so many times I was like, you know what? I need to take a walk.
It was coming. Yeah, I knew what was coming, but I mean, I was not looking forward to this, a second watch. But I mean, I really did like it. But
yeah,
I think spoiler. I think I'm kind of good with it. After this, though, they struggle on the couch, but Alexia ends up killing Justine.
More white foam.
Oh, there's white foam here. Mm-hmm. Okay. When Roman emerges from upstairs, Justine kills him with a bar stool through the jaw.
Oh.
And then she sits on it.
That was so funny. And that is also so phallic, like putting it in his mouth. And I was like, because I was like, this house is huge. You're telling me that there's nobody here. And then he walks out and I laughed. And then I had to keep laughing.
Right. She then finishes off Joopy with a fireplace poker and tries to choke out the last person in the house, but that person gets away.
Before that, it's like that girl, like, okay, she kills the guy with the chair. She's sitting on it, kind of like, whew, like this was some tough effort, but at least it's over. And then this girl comes out. She's like, hey, Ramon, like, is everything okay? Because he says, oh, go call 911. So yeah, she goes up there, but then the door is locked. And then there's this guy, Joopy, who does not know what's going on. He's like, hey, like, do you need to go to the bathroom? And she just has the perfect reaction of just like, oh my fucking God, another one? She's like, how many of you are there? And he's like, well, he's just so chill, just like, well, there's, so-and-so and so-and-so. And she's so tired. She goes over and hugs him and just like puts her head. He's like, hey, like, are you okay? She's like, yeah, I'm just really tired. And then just stabs him in the back with the poker. Poor Joopy. Well, he's like, my name's Joopy. Jupiter, but my friends call me Joopy.
Alexia returns home and tries to burn a bloodied blanket, which sets the house on fire. She locks her parents in their bedroom and leaves, but not before making weird eye contact with her dad.
Yeah, her dad's like, well, first when she comes up to the house, he's like staring at her through the window. And like the light comes on, like an automatic light, and he's just looking at her, kind of like a specimen, kind of like, what is this creature that I have? But yeah, it's so brutal because she goes to like open it. I think she's kind of looking like there's kind of a moment where she's like, am I about to do this? But then he catches her eye and he's kind of like, hey, like, why you got the key to our room? And then she just locks him in and you can see him kind of like getting up. And I thought that was one of the most disturbing deaths and you don't even see it, but yeah, it's so disturbing to me. That idea of like, you can't even get out. Cause I just love the way that this is shot too, because when she comes up from the basement and it's like, it's about to get real fucking fiery up in here. Like you can see the smoke coming up. She's so cavalier about it. And it's like this impending doom. Really, house burning while I'm asleep is like one of like a big fear from childhood. Cause I think there used to be like commercials that were like putting that fear into my head to sell like special fire alarms or something. And yeah, that's just horrifying. That's Alexia.
Now wanted for murder, Alexia alters her appearance to pretend to be Adrien Legrand, a young boy who had disappeared 10 years before at age 7, by cutting her hair, taping down her breasts and pregnant belly, and breaking her own nose.
Here's where I begin to like just truly love the trans like symbolism here, because well, first off, just PSA, do not use ace wrap bandages for a binder. And luckily they put it in the movie of it being extremely painful and she can't breathe, because that is what will happen to you. But obviously she can't get a binder under these circumstances. But I just love this because obviously Alexia is like, I don't obviously view her like, this isn't a story about a trans person, but it is like a trans story, if that makes sense. Like it's all the symbolism. And I feel like doing all of this, even though she's doing things that perhaps a trans mask person would do, she is not trans masked. She is a woman and clearly was happy to dress sexy and dance sexy. And this is painful for her. Like, to mold herself into this thing that she's not, she's literally like hurting herself with the bandages, covering up the belly, breaking her own nose. Like, it's like dehumanizing. And I feel like that's a really great, you know, even though it's not depicting a trans person, that is the trans experience. I feel like when, if you know you're trans at that point, but you're still maybe in the closet and still dressing up, you know, as the gender that you're not, it's painful. And it like feels scary when you look at yourself and you're like, that's not me, you know? So I feel like this was a great depiction of that.
Yeah. She then goes to the police claiming that she is Adrian, where his father, Vincent, a fire captain, accepts Alexia as his missing son and refuses to do a DNA test.
Yeah, they're like, homie, you want the DNA? I know that's my son. Which I feel like, again, amazing. Like, just, I love him, this character.
I do too. I know you were texting me as you were watching this and you were like, this guy's a fucking creep. And I was like, no.
I changed my mind. That was before I realized, because when you're just watching this, I was just taking it straight, like just face value. But then when I was thinking about it all under like the lens of a story of a father accepting his transgender child, I was like, oh, I love him. He's the best.
Yeah, he really is. So they're driving home and Alexia runs out of the car and is caught by Vincent, who tells her that if anyone hurts her, even if it is himself, he will hurt them.
And she's obviously not saying anything because doesn't want to reveal that she's got a high-pitched voice.
Right. And I mean, she's all fucked up. Her nose is all, she had broken her nose on the lip of a porcelain sink.
She tried to punch herself. That was not working out.
Yeah, that didn't work out. And so her eyes are all fucked up. I mean, she's just like...
Not good.
Vincent takes Alexia to the station where he lives and works out. He shaves Alexia's head until he gets to the scar.
Oh, wait. Well, before this, they what's the name of the guy? There's a guy who's kind of like the golden boy at the fire station that they see for a second. And I loved
Conscience.
this. What was that?
Conscience. His name's
Ryan,
but they call him Conscience, I guess.
I love this character too, because we also begin the whole like gender roles and like the idea of masculinity and femininity and stuff. And for all intents and purposes, it's clear that this guy Conscience was like the perfect son, you know, like he was really, I think, in like a son role to Vincent, and he's masculine. He's good at his job. And when you see him, it's like, you know, he's like a stud, you know, like looks great. Manly man. But now here's this like waifish, you know, in his mind, this waifish, weird, beaten up boy. And he's like, oh, like you're choosing this, you know? And I loved his character. That was great.
Yeah, me too. He is tender with Alexia, giving her a cap and a brace for her broken nose. He introduces her to his men, saying he is God to them, which makes his son Jesus.
He's so intense.
The firefighters are puzzled by the mute, androgynous, and apparently traumatized, quote, Adrian, but they refrain from questioning the captain's behavior. In a simulation, Legrand imagines he sees a child burned up in a cabinet.
Yeah, I wonder, is that what he thinks happened to his son? Like,
I think it's a past trauma.
Okay.
I don't think it relates back to Adrian. I think he probably found a body. Yeah.
There's also a great scene because he's so frustrated that Adrian won't talk, you know? He's like, so like, why won't you speak? Like, and you know, it's understandable. Like, I'm sure he was imagining, oh, if I'm reunited with my son, he'll hug me and love me, but here you have somebody not speaking to you, actively running away from you, shudders from your touch, it's like, oh, that would hurt. And he's so frustrated. So then he's like manly working out, and then we see him give himself like some steroids. And I feel like this is so intentional that it was like, I don't know, the exact, like literally those are like the needles that I use for my testosterone. So I feel like all of that was really intentional. Like he's putting it in his like hip. But yeah, that's how he gets his emotions out, is like,
yeah. And he's taking steroids.
Mm-hmm.
So he's trying to be more masculine as he's aging into an old man.
And he's still buff. I mean, he's...
Oh my God, this guy's body is
crazy.
Amazing.
And so I love that he's so tender, like that he's so affected by like I felt so, it's so, I feel like I had to like when I was texting you like, oh, this guy's creepy. I feel like, later I realized like, okay, I got to like re-examine my own biases, because it's like a father should be able to like give his son a kiss on the cheek. Like that should be totally normal, I could see why obviously Alexia would be uncomfortable, because it's like, I don't know, she doesn't know this guy, but like he's so tender and like sweet, and like that shouldn't be weird.
Right, but she's not used to that at all.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Her parents,
it is completely weird.
Yeah.
Legrand grows impatient that Alexia will not speak, and Alexia's breasts start to express colostrum.
What is that?
Like it's what comes in before your milk comes in when you're pregnant.
Like the veininess?
No, it's like, her breasts are all like yellow, like bleeding through the...
Oh, yeah. I was wondering what that was.
Yeah. I couldn't remember the name. I had to look it up. Legrand wants to get closer to Alexia and plays the zombie song, She's Not There, and dances.
Because he gives her the keys like, okay, yeah, you can go. So she's about to leave, but then he turns that song on and she turns around and he's just like dancing with his arms in the air, just so like open and vulnerable. And gosh, it's so sweet. But then it kind of does continue to get weird.
Yeah, Alexia is reluctant, to say the least. The dancing becomes more aggressive and turns into sparring until Alexia pushes Vincent down and punches him.
And he's just laughing.
Yeah, he tells her to fight like a man. Alexia becomes an apprentice at the station under Vincent's supervision.
To the ire of like, well, Conscience especially, because it's like, hey, hold on a second. Like, I'm great. I'm already good. This guy just got here and he sucks. and he does. Like, he's not good at it.
So Vincent is, you've already said a lot of this already, but he's, injecting himself with steroids. It seems like he's a little bit addicted to the steroids, I think.
Yeah, like the feeling.
At one point, he goes into the garbage and like takes the syringe out and like injects like the rest of what was in the syringe into his ass, which is too much.
Yeah, he just like, I thought he was dead. I really thought
he was dead.
Yeah,
too. Yeah,
because he's like just sitting there. He looks dead.
And at that point, Alexia is going to leave.
Yeah,
like she gets on a bus. She's going to leave. And there's a really important scene on the bus also. But she does come back. She has her stick. Like,
so ready.
So ready to just kill Vincent, but she doesn't do it.
Do you want to talk about the bus scene?
I do. So she gets on a bus and she's wearing the cap and, she presents as a boy, as a man. And there's a black woman sitting across the aisle from her. And then there are these really obnoxious guys in the back. And they are being like super crude. And
so like any hole, Arab, white, black, just give me one to fuck. Like, Jesus Christ.
And then they start talking about the Black woman. And she just like starts like looking over at Alexia, like, aren't you going to say something? Like, aren't you going to protect me? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
And she is just avoiding the woman's look altogether.
And this is also where I felt seen because I haven't been in like this exact situation, but just this like dichotomy of like, this is what happens when the world views you as a woman. Like, it does not matter what you look like you will be harassed at some point in your life. Magically, if they think you're a man, they do not. I mean, obviously it does still happen. Like, you can still get harassed and whatnot, but like not in the same way. Like, I like living in a city when I was in college, still like, you know, presenting as female. It's like, you know, there would be people who would come up to me like, you know, there are a lot of people who would panhandle. And the attitude now when people panhandle is like, hey, brother, like, you know, can you help another guy out or something? But before then, it was like, let me scare you. Like getting really big, being like, making me feel like I couldn't say no. And that's so fucked up. And it's just like crazy how it just goes away when you do not dress like that anymore. And I remember specifically there was like one day where at this point I had been out, but then I was like, you know, I had like a skirt. I had literally like just gotten like a few months prior. I was like, I still want to get some use out of this. So I wore it and somebody catcalled me. Like, I was like, even just putting on a skirt, that's all it takes, you know? And like, that's been sadly like one of the absolute best things about being perceived as, you know, read as male is that just doesn't happen to me anymore. And that's so fucked up.
I liked what you just said, read as male.
Yeah.
Instead of perceived as, everyone always says perceived.
Yeah, I caught myself because, you know, I also dislike the term preferred pronouns. It's like, well, it's not really a preference. It just is, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like, yeah, it's just such a bummer, for lack of a better word. Like, and I remember being like a child, you know, and I remember one time I was out with my friend. I think we were both in like 6th grade, and we were with her mom. We went to like a Harris Teeter, and the whole time we were just like having fun, you know, grabbing cookies, laughing and whatnot. But then when we got back into her car, the mom was like, I don't know why she told us this, but she was like, there were 2 men in there that were looking at you guys so much. I had to tell them to back off and to not look at you or talk to you. And I was so scared. I had never experienced that or like was aware. Maybe I had, but I hadn't been aware of it before. And like, that's so sad that I think most women, you know, have that experience at such an inappropriate, at any age it's inappropriate, obviously, but when you're a child, come on. It's so gross.
I was catcalled at a really young age, and it was like the first time or whatever that it happened, and I was just like, what is happening, right? Like, it was just so confusing.
Yeah.
Like,
scary.
Yeah, like super scary.
Yeah.
So she buzzes off the rest of her hair and revives Vincent, calling him Dad. She finds a yellow dress in her closet and tries it on. She likes how it covers her belly. She hides in the closet but is quickly discovered by Vincent. He shows her a photo album where young Adrian was in the same yellow dress. Vincent says, "They can't tell me you're not my son."
Oh my God. I was so floored by this scene. Like, again, you have like, yeah, this is obviously Alexia is a cis woman, but in this story now, she is like a trans femme, you know, like she's trans femme because, you know, we have a father catching in his eyes his son, you know, wearing a dress. And like for her, when she's looking at herself, she's so happy. Like, you know, this pregnancy has been such a source of like pain. you know, because she has to cover it up. But in this moment, the idea of her getting to really be herself and be effeminate and like, you know, have this dress over her belly, you know, she's really looking at herself. She loves it. And you can just imagine, you know, somebody trying on a dress for the first time and like loving how it feels on them. Like that's also how it feels when you like, I remember the first time I wore a binder, I was like, oh, okay, if I had any doubts before, they're gone now. Like, yeah, this is definitely something that I want to, you know, keep doing. And then the fact that he's just like he's so happy, like that this is a thing that really is finally connecting, you know, Adrian to the Adrian he knew also. And I was not expecting that at all.
Yeah. No, I wasn't either. As Vincent gives more responsibility to his son over the other experienced firefighters, one firefighter confronts Vincent about Adrian's identity after seeing the wanted poster for Alexia online. However, Vincent immediately shuts him down and tells him to never speak of his son. Ryan confronts Alexia, but she dances with Vincent smiling.
And, oh, what were you going to say?
Oh, I really like this too, because Vincent says, "We don't talk about my son." And I'm guessing he said that before. We don't talk about my missing son.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's a topic we do not, you know, address. But here, supposedly he has his son back with him, but he's using the same, you know, language. We don't talk about him. We never talk about him. You never talk about him. And I just thought that was really interesting, just the way that scene played out. Like, that's covered. We're not going there.
Yeah. I don't want to hear it. It's not even up for discussion. And again, I'm like, now that I'm viewing all this through a different lens, obviously in the context of the movie, it's, oh, well, here's a runaway serial killer. But in my view now, it's like, this golden boy, the perfect son, is trying to show him like, this isn't the person that you think it is, which is how some people view trans people, like they're hiding something from you. They are lying to you. Like maybe, you know, this would be Conscience finds, you know, Adrian's secret Instagram where, you know, they're wearing dresses and whatnot. And is like, hey, I got to show you something, you know, something's fucked up here. And the fact that Vincent immediately, you know, would just be like, I don't care. Why do you care? You know, not even going that far, just being like, don't talk about it.
But I think what's interesting too, I do think, you know, obviously, and we'll get there, but he accepts Alexia for who she is. But I think he also just needs the fantasy to be real.
Yeah, for a little bit longer.
He really needs it to be the case that is his son and his son has returned to him. We have a couple of dance parties at the station. The first one I just wrote, smoking is so pretty on film.
It really is.
It really is.
The lighting was gorgeous too.
Yeah, and it was kind of bisexual lighting, right?
It was,
yeah. All the guys are dancing in slow motion, and Vincent lifts Alexia onto his shoulders as you would a young boy. Alexia is terrified and nauseous, maybe, but relieved when she is still undiscovered.
Okay, yeah, because it's kind of putting his hands all over her, so
yeah.
And it probably was painful too.
Yeah, probably. Vincent's long-estranged ex-wife comes to see her son and ends up discovering a now heavily pregnant Alexia without her body taped down and covered in motor oil.
What I loved right before this was like they're talking, and at one point the mom's like, hey, like, Adrian, do you want to talk just me and you? And Vincent's like, you are not taking. Later, then Adrian goes to, you know, assess her situation. So now Vincent and the ex-wife are alone, and he's like, you are not taking him from me. And she goes, I don't want him. Yeah. And I thought that was so sad. Like,
yeah, me too.
Yeah, she clearly is shocked to see Adrian, but that's it. It ends here.
Yeah. There's a really interesting book called The Deep End of the Ocean or something like that. And it's a story, it's a novel of a child who went missing one day and then is reunited with the family, but has formed a relationship with his kidnapper.
Oh.
And so then the tension is between like going back to the family who you don't know at all, or staying with somebody who kidnapped you.
Yeah. Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah, it is a really cool story. I was just thinking about that too, about how I don't know what she thinks in this moment. I mean, I think I would know.
Yeah.
What my child would look like.
I think she knows.
I think she knows too. But even if she doesn't, the idea is, oh, my kid is gone.
Yeah, I accepted that he died.
Yeah. Alexia seems to be experiencing contractions and has discovered her belly is metal under the skin. She nevertheless keeps the secret for herself, not wishing to interfere with her ex-husband's delusion. I'm sorry. The couple of pronoun difficulties there. Okay. Alexia seems to be experiencing contractions and has discovered her belly is metal under the skin. The ex-wife, nevertheless, keeps the secret for herself, not wishing to interfere with her ex-husband's delusion, and begs Alexia to take care of him. He needs someone, you or another. Vincent asks Alexia to inject him. This scene is a little...
I thought this is the part of the movie that I don't think this is what's going to keep it from a perfect score for me, is I just need them to be a familial relationship. I simply do not want anything else for these two.
Right.
And also, I don't understand the point of this. Like, she wiggles the needle in him and like, I don't know, seems kind of cruel about it.
Yeah, well, and it also seems like she kind of knows what she's doing.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, then she's not innocent.
Yeah.
But he says, I take care of you, not the other way around. And he asks if she trusts him, and he shaves her face, saying that will make the beard grow.
He's trying so hard, so hard to mold her into this idea.
Vincent eventually acknowledges his delusion, telling Alexia that whoever you are my son, and that's when I lose it. When he inadvertently uncovers her breasts, he is shocked but continues caring for her.
Love this. I mean, don't love that there's now weird sexual tension. That's definitely there. I'm not making it up. They are putting that in there. Not. Yeah. I don't like that, but I obviously love what would be the wholesome message, if it could just be like, I accept you. I just love you. I just want you in my life. And just somebody put it really well on this Reddit thread where they were saying this is about like accepting. Obviously now I'm just going into symbolism. Clearly Alexia is not Adrian. But if we think about this in like the trans context, I think a lot of people do have to make that adjustment when it's somebody they've known their whole life as this thing. And now they learn, that actually you are somebody and my perception of you has been wrong this whole time. And, if you, like when I realized that I was trans, I sat on that for like a while because I was like, nope, not ready to touch this yet. And when I first found out, I was sad. Like I wasn't happy about it. I was like so stressed and sad of like, I know to do all of this is going to make me happy and I will be miserable if I don't. But also this isn't going to be easy or fun all the time. And that was really scary. And also I was just like, oh, where I want to be is so far away from here. And there's so much I'm going to have to do. That's so scary. And so, it's like I kept it a secret. It was like a secret. I mean, not real, not a, something I did not share about myself with others. And then, for I think everybody in my life who had known me up to that point, it was like, okay, I gotta adjust to this now. And I remember when I told you, I know it was an adjustment for you. And that makes sense. It's just like, I think it must be for a parent. Well, you can say better than I can, how you felt, but like, I have friends who came out as trans after I knew them, a different way, and then, have transitioned. And it is shocking. It's like, because gender is weird and uncomfortable. Like, I say that as in like, our ideas of it are so ingrained that I think this movie made people uncomfortable because it is uncomfortable to go against that. It's like kind of by design that it's supposed to be uncomfortable so that it can be a dichotomy and we can keep people out, and we can keep meaning we can determine what a woman is. And that's usually under like a white supremacist viewpoint of what we deem a woman is. And we can deem what a man is so that there are powerful men and non-powerful men. It's all about subjugating somebody, in my opinion. Not always, but I think a lot of it was constructed around that. And so yeah, it is uncomfortable to see somebody for the first time going totally against that. And even if somebody is not just woman first to you, it's still like in their profile that they are a woman, and to then just change that is an adjustment.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely had to make an adjustment, but I felt really good when I had a dream about you and you weren't your 2-year-old self. You were you.
Aww, that's so sweet.
Yeah, I felt like, okay, like the brain has made the adjustment.
Yeah.
Because one thing, I don't know if this is true of all mothers, but usually when I dream of my kids, they're little.
Interesting.
They're little kids. So, given who you are, that's not who you are. And so when that changed, I felt really good about that.
That's really sweet. Mm-hmm. I feel like it's like always a suggestion I give. Well, I say always as if I do this all the time. But one time for my old job, I gave a whole talk about how not to be transphobic because they were being transphobic. And people just kept misgendering me and whatnot. And then they would be like, I'm so sorry. It's just like, I'm trying my best, but it's so hard. Which please don't ever say that to someone. That's crazy. But I was just like, it won't be hard if you just, if in your head, you're like, I have to call this woman he, you're going to fuck up all the time. Because that's not how it works. You have to really believe. And then, sure, at some points, you probably will mess up here or there. But probably not as on the whole, because you don't do that, for dudes. You don't do that for Obama. You never accidentally so hard to remember.
At another party, the firefighters urge Adrian to dance to the music, which is a sexier version of the song in the opening of the movie. Alexia performs her showgirl choreography, confusing everyone. Vincent, disappointed, walks out of the crowd. After the party, Alexia has sex with a fire engine.
This might be my favorite scene in the movie because I just think this captures so well. I know I've said this on the pod before, but it's the weirdest feeling when the same people who would be weird to me when I was presented as female, if I was to act the same way now, would be disgusted. It's and the dichotomy between all the men being so into her, like in the first part, and they show the guys' faces, they're disgusted. Like not a single one of them is into it. And they're all like, why is this happening? Like, this is wrong. And, you know, Alexia's still Alexia. Like, she's still herself, you know? She's still amazing at dancing. She still looks sexy, but she's obviously not because they're all seeing her as Adrian. And yeah, it is a really weird feeling because, you know, I can't change the way I like act. So I know you know, however I was socialized, it still like comes out and whatnot. Like, you know, there's like really manly trans men and some are not. And I feel like I am the not, you know, one, which I'm fine with. But it's like, yeah, again, it's just really weird that this behavior, if I had boobs and was really like a cute girl, it'd be like, oh, I sometimes got stuff for free, you know? Like that's not happening now. Which again, I'll take that over being, you know, harassed, but it's definitely weird.
Alexia's body gradually breaks down as the skin of her stomach tears to reveal new metal plates. When her pregnancy comes to term, Alexia reveals her real name to Vincent, briefly attempting to seduce him, and then begging for his help. Vincent helps Alexia give birth, the titanium side of her skull splitting open on her final push, killing her. The newborn's body appears with patches of titanium on its spine. Vincent says repeatedly to the baby, "I'm here." Oh my gosh.
See, again, some people did not get it, but I got it. I got what they were saying, you know, like especially her literally saying "I'm Alexia" like at the end, and him then changing, "Okay, Alexia, push," you know, like God, it's so good. And you know, now she's born anew, and he's still there for her, and is going to, you know, continue being her dad, and I think that's beautiful. I did not like the weird seducing stuff. Don't know why that had to be in there.
But I think that goes back to the family of origin. And I think there was sexual abuse. And I think she's got a limited set of tools in her toolbox.
I see.
For how to get, you know, comfort, affection, help, you know, anything. And so I think she's just like dialing through, like, you know, what can I do? I know I'm in trouble. I need help. Maybe this will work. Maybe this will work, you know? And so I just think that's a gambit. And it's just something that I think she unfortunately learned from her original family.
That makes sense. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense then. Maybe they could have put a little bit more in the beginning, because I just read it as like, oh, this is just uncomfortable. But I do think that's a valid thing, and is like, you know, stuff I think everybody has to get through in their own way, you know, about like overcoming the situation that they grew up in and how that feels comfortable, even if it's wrong.
I mean, I wonder if there wasn't more stuff in the beginning and it just got edited out.
Could be.
You know, I mean,
this movie already has a lot.
A long movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a lot to get to. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff I glossed over. I really like the simulation. I don't even know if it's a simulation in the forest.
I forgot to mention that one, because I thought that was such a pivotal moment of like, because he in the simulation basically casts conscience aside now, and he literally explodes. It's like literally the idea of the perfect son explodes, and he's dead now, and he's now ready to accept Alexia. And I just feel like I just love the symbolism in this movie.
Yeah. I mean, the symbolism is pretty, you know, pretty blunt. I think it would be great.
I don't think it's blunt enough for some people, because people just categorize this as the movie. Because I literally, again, was looking up, and then it was like, what is that movie where the woman gives birth to a car?
Right.
Like that's not what it is at all.
Yeah, not at all. Oh, Matt, what trivia is that? What phobia is that?
Amaxophobia, also known as hamaxophobia, okophobia, and motorphobia. The persistent and irrational fear of being in or driving a vehicle. I could get here at some point. I think if I had never, maybe if I grew up in like well, no, then why would I have a fear of cars? I don't like driving very much. Sometimes I do, but it always, maybe it'll be better now because of my meds. But usually I'm always just like, I hope I don't die.
Oh, that makes it like doubly sweet when you like drove my car down the.
Oh, I mean, like when I'm with people, it's way better, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but alone, I'm just like, oh.
Yeah. There's also pedophobia, which I'm sure we've had before, also known as pedophobia or pediophobia, which is an irrational and persistent fear of babies and small children.
I have a fear that I'll have to take care of one, but because I'm worried I'll fuck it up. Like if suddenly I had to hold a baby, I'd be like, what do I do with this thing?
People would show you how to do it, though.
Hopefully. I hope one of my friends has a baby at some point, so I get to be Uncle Mac.
I used to really want grandkids, and now I'm just sort of like, maybe just, find somebody who's got a little one and just like, hang out with it a little bit.
That thing.
With this film, Julia Ducournau became the second female director and the fourth woman to win the Palme d'Or at Cannes. Director Jane Campion won the award in 1993 for The Piano. Actress Léa Seydoux and Adele Charopoulos were awarded the Golden Palm for their collaboration with director Abdelatif Kechiche on Blue is the Warmest Color in 2013. The final scene of the film came to Julia Ducournau in a recurring nightmare that saw her giving birth to engine parts.
My God.
It was the first bit of the film she had in mind, and she wrote the rest of it going backward from that image.
That's horrifying.
Titanium is only found in nature as an oxide bound with oxygen. It is an appropriate metaphor, then, that the heroine's struggles end in birth as the first breath of oxygen is taken by a part titanium baby.
Oh, interesting.
What does Letterboxd have to say about it? Jonathan Quartas gave it 5 stars. Julia can take it from here, Cronenberg.
I was like, should we have paired this with Crash? And then like 30 minutes I'm like, oh no, this is like nowhere like similar at all in any way.
I know. I think I heard Ducournau in an interview and being forced to talk about Crash.
That sucks.
And I'm just like, oh.
It's like not similar in any way.
It's not.
It's like, it's as similar as like, Fast and the Furious. Like, yeah, there's cars in it. I mean, okay, yeah, I know that it's like sex with cars, but that like, and yeah, sure, that's a really niche thing, but also that's like actually such a small part of the movie. To categorize it as such is just reductive.
Clementine gave it 4 stars. Watch it with your mom.
I think I could.
Yeah, I think we could. The Oscar expert gave it 5 stars. The most fucked up, wholesome movie.
I would agree with that.
Maggie gave it a 1/2 star. Bro, kill that shit. Marta at the end.
No.
Charles gave it a 1/2 star. No, fuck off. Disgusting. Fuck off. Fucking revolting. I don't care if it's art. Fuck off, mate. What the hell was even that?
Oh. Okay, Charles.
And Noah gave it a 1/2 star. What the French?
That's fair. I literally texted him. I'm like, why are so many French movies so fucked up?
I know.
Like especially fucked up.
I know. I was trying to find this French movie. I forgot to look it up. But there was a French movie I saw. I might have been in college, but it might have been in high school. It had so much fucked up stuff in it. But the one image that I really remember is there's a kid who's being bullied. And so every day he works out and he he takes these poles and he puts concrete in these buckets, and he gets really strong and he gets really huge and he gets all really built up. And then the bully comes again. And you just see this really strong man being reduced to tears in the fetal position on the ground. And I'm like, that is so French. I mean, that's the Frenchest thing I've ever seen.
Martyrs is French, right?
Martyrs is, yeah, it's French Canadian, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
The ending to that movie is very French, I feel like.
Yeah, I agree.
Whispering what God is and then you shoot yourself in the face. Yep.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I know. I texted you about Wages of Fear and stuff like that. That's a fucking French movie if I ever saw one. French!
I feel like you said French out loud or something when we watched it. French!
Not that there's anything wrong with that. Some people are born French and
That's
there's
okay.
nothing they can do about it.
It's genetic.
You have to accept them.
As much as you don't want to. I don't know why it's such a funny meme to like shit on French people, but it kind of is. Like, I don't know anybody French at all.
I mean, I think Raw is really a French movie too. I think it's like so super French.
Everything I've heard from people who've been to France, no offense to French people. I mean, you're not listening, so it doesn't matter. But well, maybe you will, because you'll be like, oh, French movie. But so okay, no offense. You probably say shitty things about where I live, but I've always heard that people like hate Paris, like it's like gross, and they've got great PR then, because in every movie it's like this is the land of love. But everything I've heard about real people going there, it's been like, don't go. They're mean, and it smells like cigarettes
and piss.
And piss.
Yeah.
That's what downtown smells like that too. So
yeah,
piss and trash.
Oh my God. Yeah. But I mean, I used to teach French people, over the internet how to speak English. Mm-hmm. And I always really liked them.
Why are we talking about them? Like this is like Section 9. What is it called? District 9? Like, yeah, the prawns, like I've actually like talked to one before and he actually like wasn't bad. I'm allowed to say this. I have a prawn friend.
Oh no. Well, Mac, thank you very much for having.
What do you want to do? The like,
yeah.
I thought a lot about my rating.
Okay. Did you think of a metric for our rating?
Titanium plates, I guess.
Yeah. Titanium brain plates.
4.5.
Okay.
I think you should, I mean, if you've already listened to the podcast, you can't do this now, but you should go in knowing nothing. And maybe be trans. And then I think you might really like this movie. Because my expectations were like below the ground, because you had said you liked that, because you were like, I think I like this movie. And then you're like, I don't know. Like that was the funniest text.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, let's just go in thinking we're not going to like it. And again, I did have to take breaks, but by the end I was like, I love this movie. So
I don't love this
That's
movie.
Fair.
But I did want to ask you, because you said on a previous pod that The Matrix could be read as a trans allegory.
Yes.
And I was wondering, I was just wondering if you compared the two, what do you think is more successful?
As an allegory?
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'll say The Matrix because I don't know, it's tough because I think for whatever reason, this, like, I feel like I get it. Like, I feel like I get everything that they were going for with this movie. And I love people being weird and going outside of the box. So, but it's also recency bias. So I'll say The Matrix because I feel like that one was, I mean, it gets extra points because it was written by trans people. So it's got to be The Matrix then.
Okay. I don't love this movie, but I'm really glad that Julia Ducournau is making movies, and I hope she never stops. It's sort of like, who's that dude? Alex Garland. Like, I don't like everything that comes out of that guy's head, but I'm really glad that he's making movies.
Yeah, it's not run of the mill.
Yeah, and I don't think this is for me. Like, I love you. I'm interested in you and your life and your experience, but gender to me is not interesting at all.
Yeah, that's valid.
And the exploration of it is like, it's just not my thing.
Yeah.
Now, the only thing I could kind of relate to was Vincent, trying to stay masculine as he's aging, which I think I would like to see more stories about what it's like to transform into an old person.
Yeah. I would like
would
that
be
too.
Interesting. Yeah.
I know I'm not 30 yet. Okay. I feel like anytime I even talk about age and somebody's like older than me, they're like, shut up. Not that I'm saying you're going to be like that, but it has happened to me. But this is like the first time in my life that I have noticed signs of like, oh, I can't do that thing that I used to be able to do. Like I'm in like pain. Like if I don't exercise or stretch, I'll be in pain every day. It didn't used to be like that. And that's really scary because then every time I talk to people who are older than me, they're like, oh, it's only going to get worse from there. And so, yeah, I would like to see a movie about that too. Cause I think people, if you just even see one sign of aging or like, noticing lines that weren't there before or got deeper, it's weird.
I mean, we were just talking about X, and one thing I like about that movie is the young people know they're young and they are enjoying their bodies and they're enjoying their sexuality. And I wish I would have done that. I didn't really, I didn't enjoy my body when it was a younger body. I just hated it. Like, and it took a really long time to actually like be okay with it. And one thing that I did think was like right on the money was the pregnancy stuff because, and we talked a little bit about this over text, it is so weird. And like from a scientific standpoint, it's kind of cool the way all your like internal organs move around, to fit the baby in it. But it's also like fucking creepy and nasty and gross to be pregnant.
I mean, what's happening to you? It's like if you're reading about it, you're like, that's interesting, but it's like you don't necessarily want it to happen to you.
Yeah. But I mean, it's
the beauty of life and creation.
Yeah, it's not beautiful, no. But I mean, that was really on the money. So like kudos to the makeup people, and to just like talking about that. Cause I also don't think that that's talked about, that like fear. Maybe it is.
I think it's a pretty predominant. Yeah. In horror films.
Yeah.
But
I mean, in general discourse, it would be kind of nice for women to feel like they could say, you know what?
Shit sucks.
Being pregnant right now is not awesome.
Yeah. I'm not a glowing, goddess right now.
Yeah.
I'm sweaty and my ankles are swollen.
So, I mean, I think this movie's, it touched on a lot of different things. And I think the most important things were the trans, things. But I mean, there were lots of different messages here. I mean, just accept, found family, accepting each other, and then the exploration of gender, like the firehouse scene, I think is just really well done.
It's so hard to watch in the best way.
So I'm going to give it 4.
That's really generous of you
for a
4. Movie you didn't like.
Well, I know I was texting you today. I'm like, I like 40% of this film. I mean, I like a portion of this film. A lot.
So it overpowers the stuff you don't like.
I guess so. What have we learned? We talked a lot about what we've learned. Is there anything else that you wanted to add that you have learned from watching this film?
No.
Okay. And would we watch it again?
I would.
No.
But that, maybe 2 will be enough for me. So
Yeah, it's a pretty intense film, I
I
think.
think now that I know what's going to happen, though, I could just watch it.